All right, so today we're diving into, well, it's kind of hidden gem,
Oh, yeah.
the Book of Baruch. You familiar?
I've heard of it, of
hmm
course. Not one that comes up every day.
Not a household name exactly,
Oh.
but it's got so much to say about dealing with tough times and finding hope, that kind of thing.
Always relevant, right?
Exactly. We've got this article about it, and we're going to use it to, unpack it a bit, see what makes it tick, even if, like, you're not super into, like, ancient biblical stuff.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. So, first things first. What is this book? Where does it fit in, like, the whole world of religious texts and all that?
Well, it's part of the Apocrypha.
Okay, so right away we're in kind of like a special zone here.
Definitely. It's this collection of texts, and well, some Christian denominations include them in the Bible, others don't. It's attributed to Baruch.
Baruch, okay.
He was the scribe for the prophet Jeremiah, like way back in the Hebrew Bible.
So we're talking Old Testament vibes.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh-huh.
And the Book of Baruch itself, it's considered wisdom literature.
So like less stories and more advice.
Kind of. It's more about like offering guidance,
Yeah.
big questions about life, the human condition. Baruch specifically focuses a lot on like the fate of the Jewish people, how important repentance is, and understanding God.
Whoa. So like heavy stuff.
Yeah, definitely gets you thinking.
I bet. It's amazing how people, like thousands of years ago, were wrestling with these same huge ideas. The article says there's two main parts to the book.
Yeah, there are.
What sets them apart?
Well, part one is like, imagine you're an Israelite exiled in Babylon.
Oh, wow.
You're far from home, you've lost everything familiar, and suddenly you get this letter, that's part one. It's directly addressed to them. It's calling for them to like own up to their mistakes, and turn back to God.
Oh, wow. That context, like being exiled,
Mm.
it makes it so much more real, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It wasn't just some theoretical thing. These people were suffering. Their homeland was gone, the temple destroyed. Like, it was a time of immense despair.
Yeah. So part one is this message of like acknowledging where they're at spiritually. And then part two, what's the vibe there?
Part two shifts. It becomes much more hopeful. It's all about comfort and the promise that they'll be saved eventually.
Yeah.
There's this really beautiful passage where wisdom is like described as this divine force,
Yeah.
guiding people through hard times, leading them back to where they belong. It even predicts the restoration of Jerusalem and the Jewish people returning home.
That's, wow. Talk about a light at the end of the tunnel. I bet that was huge for them back then.
Oh, for sure. It's not even just about the prediction itself, right? It's about what that hope represents. It's
Yeah.
about holding on to faith, finding a reason to keep going, even when things are incredibly tough.
Yeah, that really resonates with me. It makes you think about how people, like even today, find strength in difficult times.
Totally. We all need that,
Oh,
right?
sure. This brings up something I find kind of fascinating, though. The Book of Baruch, it's not like universally accepted as part of the Bible,
Right.
right? So how do we like square that with this powerful message it has?
It's a good question, and it highlights how diverse religious thought really is. So the Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches, they consider it part of their canon.
Okay.
But Jewish and Protestant traditions, they don't. It just goes to show, even within Christianity, there are different views on which texts are like, the ultimate authority.
That's such an interesting point.
Yeah.
Okay, so even with those different views on where it belongs canonically and all that, what can we, just as like regular people listening, take away from the Book of Baruch?
For me, the biggest thing is it's about suffering, hope, and the possibility of redemption. It reminds us that even in like the darkest moments, there's always that potential for renewal, finding that source of strength within you, whatever that might be.
Wow. That feels so relevant even now. Everyone goes through tough times, and this book, it offers a whole other way of looking at those moments, finding resilient meaning.
Exactly. It reframes things, And if we take a step back and look at the bigger picture, it raises this really interesting question for all of us. If you could get a letter of advice from someone in ancient times, what would you even ask?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. And how would their perspective, coming from a totally different world, how would that give us new insights into our own lives?
That's a fantastic question to leave us with. If this deep dive has made you curious, I definitely recommend checking out the Book of Baruch and the Apocrypha in general. There's so much to discover there. Thanks for joining us.